You know, my opinion on Russell Westbrook over the past few years has changed. I once was a player that thought he was just an overrated, shot-sucking stat pad that wouldn't win anything. And I think probably his last year in Oklahoma City on top of this year in Houston have kind of changed my opinion on him as a player. And, you know, I do agree with the idea that he's a stat padder. I do think that he does fight for rebounds a little too much. And he does it because he knows he wants triple-doubles. And I don't think he is as good as 10 of a playmaker as 10 assists may suggest. I don't think he's a 10 assists per game kind of playmaker. I think he kind of, forces it a bit much and things like that. And, the turnovers, his assist-to-turnover ratio does represent that. I think he's closer to a 7 to 8 kind of assist per game player naturally. But I do think that, 10 is kind of pushing it as far as, what you would expect. He isn't your typical 10 assists per game kind of player. But that's besides the point. I'm getting negative when I'm trying to go positive with Westbrook. I understand that people don't think that he's a winning player. He's a player that you can build around if you want to build a title. But at the same time, if you don't like him, that's one thing. Okay, I can't control who you like or who you don't like. But what you think of him about a basketball player is really dependent on what you value him as a player and what expectations you hold him as a player. Because honestly, Westbrook may not be overrated to you. Westbrook may be underrated. Westbrook may be overrated to you. But it all depends on the expectations you hold him to. If you hold him to the expectations of one of the 10 greatest players of all time, then you would say that he isn't on that level. And people who think of him highly, you may think that he's overrated. But if you hold him to the level of a top 30 to 50 player, let's say, you would have reasonable expectations for him. And you would say that he isn't disappointing. But if you hold him to his top 10 expectations and he doesn't deliver on those, you're just going to view him as a disappointment. And I really do think, though, and this is something I kind of think about a lot, and I think Westbrook's the perfect player to think about it, is what you think about Westbrook is honestly more of a reflection on how you view basketball players more than it is a reflection on Westbrook himself. Because, if you think Westbrook's one of the 10 greatest players of all time, you have him in your top 20, that really goes to show that you may value stats more, or maybe you just don't know what you're talking about, because he's not a top 20 player of all time. If you think that, he's overrated, and he's not, one of the best point guards in basketball, and you think that, he's nothing, and you rate other players ahead of him just because he doesn't win a lot, or win as much, that may go to show that you may have a bias to what you see on tape. I personally think he's great. He's one of the best players of our generation, one of the best players I have ever seen. He's a player on my bucket list of wanting to see players before they retire. I want to see him play live before he retires. He's on that list of players I want to see. And when I watch him play, there are frustrating moments. Why did you make that pass? Westbrook, that was not a good shot to take. Why are you taking a three-pointer 5 seconds into the shot clock when you're not a great three-point shooter? Yeah, he's not a great shot selection kind of guy. He's not a great passer when it comes to decision-making. But I don't see players play like him. A player who plays at 100% all the time. And I don't think I've ever seen Westbrook tired, which is kind of insane, considering how high of a level he plays at. I've never seen him tired, hands on his knees, panting, that, you know what I mean? That may have sounded really weird, I'm sorry, but, I think that if you can play at that high level and not be fatigued, that's impressive. That's really impressive. And also when it comes to his triple-doubles, yeah, he's stat padded. There's no denying that. But what he did was all-time great. No matter, how big of a Westbrook hater you are, you can't, deny what he did, stat-wise. A triple-double over the past 3 years is impressive. I don't care what anyone says. Stat padding and all, it's impressive. Because there aren't many people that I think could do it. And, I don't think if Westbrook played, within a way that you would want to build around him as a contender, I don't think he would put up a triple-double. I still think he would put up like 25, 8, and 8. Like, if he didn't stat pad, it would be 25, 8, and 8. That's the kind of player I think he is. But, again, people will like talk about him and his triple-doubles like, oh, it's not that impressive. He's just stat padding. He's just doing this. He's just doing that. At the end of the day, you still got to put the ball in the basket at least 5 times. Probably more. You still have to pass the ball 10 times in the pass leading to a score. At least 10 times. And you have to grab a rebound at least 10 times. So, it's still impressive. So, like, at the end of the day, like, you know, I compare it to Wilt's 100-point game or Wilt's 50-point per game season. People are like, oh, it's not that impressive because, you know, he played in a weak era and the style of play was different and like he was just bigger and stronger than everyone. But at the end of the day, you still had to put the ball in the basket, and that's the way I take it. Like, at the end of the day, he still had to do the things to get the triple-double, and even if he stat padded to get them, he still had to do them. You know what I mean? So that's where I kind of get that. Like, that's what I still view it as impressive. Like, listen, you can talk about his deficiencies all the time, but if you only talk about his deficiencies, you're only bringing in negative vibes. And honestly, like, well, I don't think he's the best point guard in basketball, and I don't think he's better than Steph Curry. And yeah, I brought negative things too, bringing negative vibes. But at the end of the day, there are a few players that I would want to see more in-person play than Russell Westbrook. He's one of the most talented players I've seen. One of the most explosive, one of the most enthusiastic. And at the end of the day, no matter what you think about him, if he's a stat patty, if he's you know, a top 10 player of all time, which that's a bit up there, buddy, if you think he's a top 10 player of all time. But no matter what you think about him, you can't deny that Russell Westbrook kind of is the living embodiment of what it means to love basketball. If you made it to this point in the video, thank you so much. It means so much to me, guys. You guys don't understand. But again, thank you. Like and subscribe if you're new. Feel free to leave feedback in the comments section below. And I'll see you guys in the next video.